Before we begin, thank you very much to 427 spiders inside an orange peel for joining the Patreon campaign. That's probably the creepiest thing I've ever shouted out. Also, the shout out was spelled Orange Peak, but I'm going to assume that's a mistype because Orange Peak sounds like an obscure mountain range. I feel like Orange Peel was the intention. So sorry if I got it wrong, but I want to make sure. I felt like that was the correct call here. So we're talking about the Skybound Transformer comics again. We're going to be reviewing issues 7 and 8. I try to give ample space in between the release of these books and when I finally do the reviews because I really do want you to go read them. They are very, very well written and surprisingly good books. I honestly didn't expect what we're getting out of them. It's very, very good. So I want to encourage you to read them, and this is mostly just for the people who are incapable for various reasons or just don't really care about spoilers or anything, or more for the people that have already read these books and want to see if my opinion matches up. So yeah, I really do want you to go read them because they are very good to read. But that said, I think it's been enough time. I think it's perfectly safe to talk about 7 and 8 today. Now, as usual with these, I'm going to be using as little visual example from inside the books as possible. I'm going to be depending mostly on visual examples from preview pages that were released as a press preview and covers. So very, very little art. I'm trying to preserve as much of the internal art of the book as I possibly can. So, but we are going to discuss it, and we're going to do it out of order. We're just kind of going to go hitting all the different story beats and how it went through these two issues. Kind of, and we're not in any particular order. We're just in order of interest to me, especially. So we're going to start with Carly and Cliffjumper's relationship. Now, when this started off, it really did feel like they were just doing Bumblebee and Spike, but with Cliffjumper and Carly. But it was with issue 6 and the end of that first conflict where we really got the first big twist to that, and that was Cliffjumper refusing to take Starscream's life, and Carly really desperate for revenge for her father, as well as just wanting Starscream dead, period. That really did play a lot. And Carly, who is new to all this, doesn't understand what Cliffjumper is going through. He's just seen so much death at this point that even if there is a greater good to be had, he can't pull the trigger. He can't bear to see one more die, even if it's someone like Starscream. And that's a big shift in the characters of Cliffjumper from what we've seen in the past. He would usually be shoot first and not really bother with a question. Really just the shoot part. But this is a different take on him. And it does drive this weird wedge between him and Carly, who's starting to take up, I assume, what was her father's guns and starting to practice them herself. Because now, if Cliffjumper's not going to do it, apparently she's going to. Now, the fun part about this is, I guess because put the girls together, I don't know why, but RC decides that she is going to try and connect to Carly. She joins her in the practice range. She shares her experiences losing people in the war. Carly is 100% unfazed. That's the revenge driving her. So, again, now she's no longer coming across like Spike. Spike, who, by the way, is just starting to recover in this one. I think he's still in a wheelchair. I think he's still stuck the way he is. He's still injured. But he is up and about. He's not harboring any ill will toward Optimus, so at least we have that. But RC is trying really hard to find a bond with Carly. And it reaches the point where she actually asks Optimus if she can make Carly her Iron Apprentice, which is our brand new concept for this universe. So an Iron Apprentice is a relationship it's basically a master and a pupil. It is an older Transformer bonding with a younger Transformer. You train when I train. You battle when I battle. So this was her way of taking in Carly and satisfying her desires, but at the same time making sure that she be around to keep her safe. It's a weird way of circumventing Optimus, who really doesn't want to put the squishy humans in danger. Finally, an Optimus Prime who understands that the human beings shouldn't be rushing into battle with everybody else. Good. But even then, he leaves them to guard the base. He doesn't send them out on active duty. So even then, he gets around it, while still respecting RC's wishes. But it's going to be an interesting way. That seems to be the only point where Carly's kind of satisfied with this, where, okay, this isn't a potential to get onto a battlefield and shoot Starscream in the head. Okay, I get that feeling. Trust me, I do. So she goes along with it, and we'll see how it develops. Because everything else takes place away from the base, so we don't really get to see how Carly reacts to any of this afterwards. I'm sure issue 9 is going to flesh it out, so we actually get a little bit of exactly what the Iron Apprenticeship is actually going to mean. The Autobot base actually does have another problem, however, and that is the continued integration with Skywarp. It is explained that the Decepticons bonded Skywarp and Teletran-1 completely. So if they try to dismantle Skywarp from the computer, they lose Teletran-1. And with no other Cybertronian tech to repair it, this is literally the only way the computer stays operational. But what that means is whatever residual element of Skywarp spark is left is actually making it difficult for them to repair anybody, because he's just screwing with the Decepticons. And it's even surmised that this might actually be some kind of failsafe that was programmed in, which is actually pretty smart, along with just this horrific image of Skywarp, wired into the Autobot computer. What's interesting here is that gun-toting Carly accidentally launches a rocket in the base, which RC intercepts to save Skywarp so that the computer doesn't go down. And apparently, this made Skywarp happy enough that finally, Teletran-1 repaired Wheeljack's legs, which was trying to be used as like this bonding kind of like moment of like, hey, we can show mercy, we can cooperate with this, and Carly's just like, stuff it. Do not preach to me, Optimus. But it does indicate that Skywarp might actually be willing to cooperate a little bit more when it comes to getting the other Autobots on their feet, if not for self-preservation's sake, but also potentially realizing what his Decepticon brethren did to him. Again, might be one of the more, considering he's buried in Teletran-1 right now, he does have the potential to be one of the more interesting Skywarp characters. Optimus Prime is going through it. So he doesn't have any like huge character moments in these two issues. He does have some that kind of continue this this very caring leader that he's turned out to be, who's also going through PTSD. He is going through it every time we see him. In this case, he's actually getting flashbacks to memories that aren't his. It can connect into his own memories of war, but some of them do not make sense, like him keeping a little human child in his hands, like a baby. And it's something that Optimus Prime doesn't know what's going on, but the reader knows what's going on. Remember, Sparky, in order to give the Matrix enough power to revive Optimus Prime, sacrificed himself by walking into the Matrix. Which means a little bit of Sparky's memories have now intermingled with Optimus Prime's. This has interesting repercussions. We haven't seen any yet, but it feels like it could lead to Optimus and Spike having more of a father-son bond, or being extremely protective of Spike, or having a stronger understanding of humans, how we live, how we experience life. That seems like it could come to an even more like compassionate and understanding Optimus Prime. For an Optimus Prime who already does come across very compassionate, when he's dealing with Jetfire in this issue, he seems genuinely upset over what had to happen to him. Let's go ahead and talk about Jetfire here then. So, Jetfire has been restored with what limited resources they had left, because they need some way of flying the planet in order to find and stop the Decepticons. The problem is they didn't have enough energy to completely bring him back. He's stuck in vehicle mode, and he's blind. So essentially, all he is at the moment is a talking jet. And he's angry about it, but he's also terrified about it, to the point where he begs Optimus not to leave him. So Optimus does. He stays there. He tries to just be there for Jetfire. And it's amazing to see an Optimus who's just there. He had to make a really tough decision. And you could tell that it pained Optimus to make it. It's necessary, but it looked like it hurt. And then to have Optimus also, trying to be, have the good bedside manner to go with it, that's a lot. Again, I really, really like this Optimus Prime. It's a very, very strong Optimus Prime. And then we get to the Decepticon side of things, and this gets interesting. So after his complete and total failure, wasting their resources, and just how abusive he was to his fellow Decepticons, Starscream gets wrecked. Just violently, viciously beaten up by Soundwave, who is furious not only at his immense failure with the Autobots, but also the fact that he attacked Ravage. "You kicked my Ravage," was Soundwave's words. So this beating, this is entirely revenge-based. So the beating is absolutely savage, to the point, Starscream goes from begging to be co-leaders. Maybe you don't have to take over leadership. Maybe we can be co-leaders. And then just outright begging. It's just pitiful to see how fast Starscream falls here. And yeah, he just gets annihilated. At one point, Soundwave releases Laserbeak just to rip out Starscream's eye. Just to be that much more cruel. And then he rips Starscream's guts out before tossing him down a cliff. Now, Starscream seems like he's already dying before Soundwave even starts with the gut ripping, which, by the way, he's going to be used to repair Ravage. Kind of poetic there, don't you think? But man, we don't see Starscream actually die, however, so he's going to survive. They're not going to kill... I was going to say they're not going to kill off a character as big as Starscream, but hey, look at Bumblebee. But it does make for a loose end. It does make for a loose end to come back around. Because, of course, we have to get Carly and Starscream in the same room again, just so she gets the horrors of war properly burned into her brain. In this I don't know what, destruction of Starscream and Soundwave taking over the Decepticons, we do get a good look at Thundercracker now. Now, he's already on my interesting list because of just the way he was talking. Specifically, describing the Autobots as evil, which is a weird thing for a Decepticon to actually say, and really makes me wonder why he has that thought. But we also see this attack on what I assume is an aircraft carrier, where the Decepticons, they want the humans out of the area because they're trying to get to the Nemesis, essentially. But the Decepticons here, Thundercracker here, is seen in the same way that we've seen with Starscream and Skywarp grabbing a human in his hand, and the human's begging for his life, and Thundercracker takes pity on him and lets him go. He lets all the humans go. I mean, Soundwave blasts them anyway because they don't want to leave witnesses, but oh my god. Thundercracker might actually be based on how his original toy bio intended him to be based. You don't understand. IDW Thundercracker is my favorite iteration of Thundercracker ever. I mean, it's by far the most personality the character's ever had. But just the idea that they followed how his original character design worked. There's actually a Decepticon who pities the humans and actually sympathizes with them is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big element to include. It shows that the Decepticons aren't just all shades of black and dark grays. There's actually some gray area. There's actually someone who, in different circumstances, might not have sided with the Decepticons, and that's the Thundercracker I want to see, and this is kind of hinting at that. We're kind of building to that, which is incredible to me. We'll see how much farther it goes. He seems like he's still very much on the Decepticons' cause, but we'll have to see how Soundwave's leadership goes, because it seems like Soundwave's a lot more caring about his comrades than Starscream was, which might go a long way to keeping Thundercracker where he is. Speaking of, Soundwave seems far more practical when about his leadership. His goal is not just the seemingly mindless destruction that Starscream enjoyed, or, just getting more troops up for the sake of it. Now that they do not have access to the Ark, they need to gain whatever advantage they can, and in this case, they need the Nemesis. So that's what they do. Soundwave's first focus is to recover the Nemesis, get it online again, so he can use his communication abilities to contact Cybertron, and that's when, the big, end of issue thing drops. Shockwave is still active, and Shockwave is now going to be assisting Soundwave on Earth. That puts the Autobots back on the back foot, depending on how that goes. That's actually a really cool element to add. And it does seem that Soundwave has a far better idea than Starscream ever did. Rather than focusing on just the minions you have, why not go farther? Why not see what you can get from Cybertron? So that's what's happening here. Good to see. Really good to see. There's something else on the Nemesis. There's something banging in the walls in the Nemesis. And it's Astrotrain of all things. This was interesting. This was really weird, because this is, again, a very different depiction of Astrotrain, because he's kind of coming off like a berserker. He's trapped away and vile and, horrifically angry at Megatron. And we don't know why. It was never actually specified, just that he was locked up on the Nemesis because basically he was too dangerous. Whatever Megatron did to him, however that turned out, has had a tremendous effect on how Astrotrain is behaving. But it's one more Decepticon to join the battle, and he comes across very powerful. In a way that IDW treated Triple Changers as a higher power scale than your standard Transformer. Kind of like that, but also Berserk level angry. So you tie that in. He's full Barbarian mode in this one. Full Barbarian mode. Really curious not only to see what part he plays in the overall story in the next battle with the Autobots, but also really want to know why he's so angry at Megatron. What of all Decepticons, what did Megatron do to get someone this angry? Now I really want to know. So, between the Autobot and Decepticon, there is one more storyline going on, and that is happening in little bits at a time on Cybertron, and they focus around Elita-One, who apparently is taking, feels like she's in the Autobot leadership role in the absence of Prime, which makes total sense for her. They show a rescue mission, which goes very badly. Cup, Warpath, and Huffer all bite the dust, and I will admit, Huffer and Warpath are not very commonly used characters in these stories, so it doesn't surprise me that they would end up on the death count, but Cup is usually a mainstay in a lot of these books. He's usually that connection to the past and the history of the war. So it's actually really surprising they decided to kill him off so quickly. And all of this is to save some robot that is so damaged we can't tell who it is. And Elita doesn't use a name, this robot doesn't use a name. All we know is that they have suffered and been tortured for the last 150 years. Literally, when you see him, he has been stripped down to his internal skeleton. There's no colorization or shape. There's no armor left anywhere on his form to tell you it is this Transformer. We literally have no idea who this is, other than they've been tortured for so long that they are asking to die. And Elita will grant that if they are caught. But until then, she's trying to save him. And that alone is kind of interesting to me, because Elita-One's major connection to anyone in any Transformers fiction has always been to Optimus Prime. I've never seen her, like, strongly connected to anyone else. Like, even in the IDW depiction, you know, she's a very kind of, like, lone character. Even though she's, like, a leader, she doesn't really have anyone that she, like, trusts. She doesn't have anyone friend. She doesn't have anyone I could see her doing this with. You know, carrying them out of an enemy stronghold to save their life. It's a very interesting position for Elita-One, and it's one of those kind of stories that the comic tells, like, only like 2 or 3 pages are devoted to this story, and the rest of the book is what's happening on Earth. So it's going to be a very slow burn to find out exactly who this tortured Transformer is, but it is definitely doing a good job of making me curious. So, that is basically the major stuff that came out of issue 7 and 8. Again, really fantastic reads that set up a lot of really, really cool things. I want to know what's happening on Cybertron. I want to know where Thundercracker's mindset is. I want to know how Optimus and how the memories from Sparky are affecting Optimus and where that leads. It's telling a really interesting story. It's a brutal story. There's a lot of really damaged spots and a lot of death already, but it's telling a really, really good story. And despite starting off in a very similar way, it feels very different from any Transformer story right now. That is what I wanted, and that is what's going to keep me reading. So, that's the review. That's issue 7 and 8. We only do this when 2 issues come out, so it'll probably be a couple months before we're here again. But, you know, these books are kind of worth the wait. So, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.